What's up everyone, it's a Knife Style here, and today I'm going to be doing my first impressions on this knife. This is the Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight. And so this first impressions video is actually coming a little bit after than what I would normally do. I've actually got to carry this knife for a little under a week, and yeah, I've used it a lot. I use it to the point where I wanted to put my own edge on it, and so I did just that, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. But the reason for getting this knife is that I lost my St. Nick's knives exclusive native 5 lightweight with the DLC 4V blade and the red FRN handles. That was a really good knife, and I'm sad that I lost it, but I wanted kind of another Spyderco to replace it, and there weren't any natives that really drew my attention. There are a pretty decent amount of those native 5 lightweight sprint runs, so I might get one in the future. I might get one in Maximat. There is that new teal one in S90V, which is pretty cool, but I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I'll probably eventually get another native, but so far I'm happy with this knife. And I actually got this from Knife Ship Free for $80 because I recently bought a Sabenza, and they have a points rewarding system, and so I got $40 off on this knife, which us knife guys love deals where we get like $40 off like I did. And so, you know, maybe I think DLT has a point system. So overall, I would suggest shopping at a retailer that has a point system. So if you spend as much money on knives like me, you know, you can save a little money in the end. But enough about how I got this knife. Let's talk about this knife. So for the blade, we have an S30V blade with a satin finish in this kind of leaf shape, blade shape. And this blade shape, it's pretty much perfect for me. You know, I do like a little bit of that, like the point to be lower, because sometimes I'll do some scraping tasks kind of like that, and that really helps good. And sometimes if it's like a trailing point way out here, that tip is very hard to access. I also like that you have a lot of flat here for, you know, sometimes I'll push into cardboard and then cut it with that flat. This blade shape is overall very functional and one of the best blade shapes for me out there. And one of my issues with this blade is that I sharpened it here, and this grind from the factory was very off center. So if you look on this side, it looks pretty much good, but on this side I actually micro beveled it. And if you see right there, you can see the grind lines from the factory right where my fingernail is, and then you see my more polished edge in the reflection of the light behind me right there. And so just when sharpening this, I sharpened this side, everything was fine, but when I went to this side, what happened was I did the whole sharpening, and it was a huge micro bevel. Like, it was probably, probably sharpened this side at like 17 degrees when I should have sharpened it at like 11 or 12. And so yeah, it's not all that necessary. I can do everything I need with this, but it's just one of those things. When I freehand sharpen, I'm kind of a perfectionist, and when Spyderco isn't doing all that accurate of a grind on their knives, it's just kind of frustrating for me at least. But overall, let me get out some leftover newspaper I got here laying around, just a leftover strip. It's a hand-me-down. Overall, this is a fine edge. It'll serve me right. It is shaving arm hair and doing everything that I'll need it to do, and it'll definitely cut things like cardboard just fine. But overall, I just wish that Spyderco could do a better grind from the factory. But they did make this knife nice and thin behind the edge, or at least for Spyderco. This is 15 thousandths here, about 16, 17 thousandths here, and about 20 thousandths at the tip, which I'm very happy about. A lot of Spydercos come like 20, 21 thousandths, and personally, that's not too thick for EDC. I can still use it if the blade's sharp, but it's not necessary to have a knife that thick for your general EDC uses. So I really like when I see Spyderco making their blades a little bit thinner. Yes, I would like these to be 10 thousandths behind the edge, or 9 thousandths, just something super thin like that. But overall, I am happy with them, and I love to see them. I don't know if they're making improvements, but this one is good at least, so I'm happy about that. And S30V steel, one of my favorite steels. It works great. I have zero complaints about S30V. Such a good all-around steel, and one of my favorite user steels probably. So let's talk about the fit and finish, because this is my first Taichung Spyderco. Overall, I am very impressed. We are centered here, right there. Blade play, I can wiggle out a little bit if I grip hard and really wiggle with my right hand, but overall it's not an issue. It will drop shut for me. that's not that big of a deal to me, but it still is kind of nice, you know, because the compression lock, you're all out of the way of the blade. Sometimes I don't really like drop shut actions, especially on knives like liner locks, you know, because I don't really like the feeling of that blade kind of just falling towards your finger. It's just not one of those things I like. I feel like it's kind of a safety hazard, but it's not all that big of a deal, and I don't really care about a drop shut action, but it is nice, and I guess it is fun to play with, but I don't really play with it all that much, I guess. So, enough on the fit and finish, or actually I'll talk about the lockup. Let's see what it is. Yeah, no lock rock here. I felt a little bit of that blade play when I was doing it. But yeah, no lock rock. Overall fine. Fit and finish, pretty good for Tai Chung, and I am impressed. I haven't bought an overseas knife in a while, but I'm not like boycotting overseas knives. I just don't really, I'm not really getting into politics on this channel. And so I haven't bought one in a while, mainly just because a lot of the designs overseas don't interest me all that much. You know, a lot of these American-made knives have really good designers, and so that's why I've been buying most of my knives from them. But anyway, on to the ergonomics of this knife. So the FRN on here is probably my favorite out of all of Spyderco's FRN. It's just overall great, and I really like the feel. It's not too sharp where it hurts or makes little divots in your hand that look odd, and it overall really benefits the ergonomics here because this grip right here is great. One complaint that I have with knives like the Para 3 and the PM2 is they have this very excessive finger ramp, I guess, right here. And what that does is when you're choked up, like this grip is not really comfortable at all because my thumb is completely locked like that. But this grip is kind of comfortable, but I'm mainly talking about the Para 3 here. The PM2 isn't that bad. Like this is where my thumb wants to go, but because of this huge hump, that's not really comfortable. The finger ramp is really the most comfortable in this choked back position, and the jimping for the finger is right where the jimping for the thumb is, and you really just don't hold a knife like that, or at least I don't, and it's just not all that comfortable. But this knife, it does not force you to choke up. It feels really great in this pinch grip, which is mostly how I cut things. Overall, I'm impressed with the ergonomics of this knife, and I really have nothing bad to say about them. I guess this top jimping right here, or jimp, it's a little bit sharper than I'd like it to be. This blade was just stonewashed. I bet that'd be knocked down and completely fine, but it's not that big of a deal at all. And so finally, I'll talk about carry. Overall, this wire clip is great. It actually has a little bit more tension than the average wire clip, but it rides deep, it overall carries lightweight, and I'm really happy with it. So overall, this Sage 5 lightweight, I'm very impressed with, and it's probably my favorite Spyderco that I own so far. You know, it would be close comparing this and the Native. I don't really have a clear winner yet, and I don't know if I ever will. Maybe when I get another Native, I'll do a battle of the blades and duel them out. But anyway, that's going to do it for the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.